Breakdown: The Pipeline Debate and the Threat to Canada's Future. Written by Dennis McConaghy. Dennis McConaghy is a Canadian energy executive who has nearly 40 years of industry experience in infrastructure development and is the author of Dysfunction: Canada After Keystone XL.
Breakdown is a book that tries to tackle the subject of how can Canada reconcile its ambitions to have a credible and proportionate climate policy while at the same time maintaining and growing the economic contribution from hydrocarbons, one of the great natural endowments it has had. And this book is taking on the experiences over the last 5 years in this country, where trying to find that balance has largely been very problematic, very difficult for the country, very divisive. This book chronicles that history and at the same time tries to offer constructive suggestions as to how this country can actually achieve credible climate policy based primarily on carbon pricing, while at the same time adjusting its regulatory and legal processes in order to still be able to capture its hydrocarbon opportunities. All of that is the great Canadian challenge, and that is what this book is trying to constructively explore. Breakdown, I think, is even more relevant in 2020 than it even was when it was released in 2019. In a post-COVID world, Canada is going to be struggling to re-energize its economy, restore economic activity across all sectors. And so it becomes especially vital that all of Canada's existing competitive advantages are fully utilized. So how does Canada do that responsibly while at the same time wanting to make a constructive and morally justified contribution to dealing with the global climate risk? How does Canada find a balance between its economic interests and credible and proportionate climate policy? And of course, it would be my hope that those responsible in our country for policy, I would very much hope they would look at the recommendations in Breakdown, take them to heart, and at the very least have a vigorous discussion of those specific recommendations. I'd like to thank, for Breakdown, obviously Dundurn Press for their continuing support and giving me the opportunity to write this second book. I want to also acknowledge the contributions of Naomi Lewis, helping my English be as accessible as possible, and without saying my family, most importantly Maureen, in terms of her steadfast support. But I'd also like to thank an array of professional colleagues over the last years who have stimulated my thinking on these issues. I very much want to acknowledge the contribution in the generation of this book from those various people that I've had the privilege of working with, competing with, and in sometimes arguing with about the appropriateness of policy.
Breakdown: The Pipeline Debate and the Threat to Canada's Future. Published by Dundurn Press.